Everybody, welcome back to Eat and Talk. I'm so excited for today's episode. Allah Mubarak. I have one of my favorite people here on my show today, Dilek. Thank you so much for coming.
Hi.
You guys, she is, when I tell you, one of the most gifted, phenomenal women that I have ever met. I'm trying to remember actually, how did we first cross paths?
I don't know, but I have such an imposter syndrome right now when you say that.
you guys, you guys, she is so awesome. I am shy because you're glowing, and I know you're like, oh my goodness, this is a podcast, but you guys are going to be seeing her a lot more. And the topics that we're going to cover today are very important topics, especially within our community. So I really hope you guys enjoy this episode. First of all, I was just talking off camera. I was like, I love your name. What does it mean?
It's a Dilek, and I think a lot of people, for the first time, they don't really know it. They don't come across people with that name because it's not very common. And it has a Turkish background. It's a Turkish name, very common Turkish name. But I love the reaction here when I tell you that means wish, because my mom was wishing for a girl after having a boy, which I totally get now after having two boys.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the meaning.
Mashallah, and
Yeah.
that's so I haven't I mean, I every name has a meaning, but I
hmm
haven't come across anyone whose name means wish. I think that's so deep.
It's just so interesting because I used to hate my name for a very long time. I was born and raised in Germany. First of all, everyone always used to butcher it, right?
Yeah.
Like they didn't know how to say it, and then they made fun of it. And when you're little, you always just want to try to fit in. You do not want to stick out, right? You want
Mhm.
to just like have the most common name, so no one, when they look at the attendance, you want to be like, oh, okay, that's me.
Yeah.
And then when I grew older, I was like, oh my God, the only task my parents had as a Muslim was to give me a Muslim name. They did not give me a Muslim name, right?
Yeah.
But then I came across a sister, and it was just literally just last year or something. And I told her how much I hate the fact that I don't have a Muslim name. And she said, you know what? It's actually more important what the meaning of your name is
Yeah.
than having an Arabic name. And ever since, I kind of love it.
I love it, and I feel like you really embodied it. And I feel like today you help make people's wish come true. So it's a full circle moment. And so let's kind of talk about that. What do you do?
So I do real estate, but it's so much more than just real estate. I mean, I have to really paddle back here and just explain why, because I feel like a lot of people don't understand that as a real estate agent or advisor, as we call ourselves, you are self employed, right? Your base salary is zero. As much as everyone thinks it's so glamorous, like who signs up for base salary zero,
Right.
right? So everyone thinks it's just going to fall onto your lap. They only see the success in life, right? But they don't see how much you have to proactively actually work on your career,
Mhm.
right? It's just like any other entrepreneur, right? So the first 3 years, I think, basically is actually getting to know yourself.
Wow. Explain a little bit more about that.
So, because success is really actually driven by what your motivation is. And if you don't know what your motivation is, then you might just feel like, oh, you're very driven, you're very successful, but then it just goes away. Or you just always wonder why you can never achieve something that makes you happy, right?
Yeah. Wow.
So I I don't know if it was a midlife crisis or whatever it was, but I feel like the last 3 years, like I had really a lot of time and the luxury to really deep dive what my motivation is.
Wow.
And it's really interesting to actually realize it's been so recent, actually, that I know what my motivation is. And I'm not kidding when I tell you that it changed a lot in my career too,
Mhm.
because knowing who you are and what your motivation is makes a huge difference.
It does. Wow. Okay, that was I have 100 questions followed up with that because that was
Sure.
so deep. Let's backtrack real quick. You mentioned that, in the last 3 years you did a lot of self-discovering and you're figuring out what your motivation is. How did you get into real estate, and can you kind of explain more why you got into it?
So we immigrated here 14 years ago due to my husband's job. He has same as me. He's born and raised in Germany, has a Turkish background, and he had to work double as hard to
Mhm.
get where he is now. And he had the chance to just come to America, live the American dream, right? So we came here and we loved it. And it didn't make sense for me then to work. So I was a stay-at-home mom. We had a child fairly early right away and everything. So I stayed home for 9 years. And as much as I appreciate all of that, I never felt like I had the balance, and I never felt like this is all I want to do. And I think that helped me to decide that I want to say, hey, I need more. I need more to have a balance. I mean, it's up to everyone else, and everyone has to know what they like or want, right? But for me, it wasn't enough. So I looked out there for signs. I really listen a lot to my instincts and to like things that I see, want to do. And
You do,
the
yeah.
problem too is though, I like to learn everything. Like I like to see everything. I
But
like
that's
to
not a problem.
well, actually, yes, if you want to decide what you want to do.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
So,
Be
but it,
overwhelming.
yes, but it also had to be worthwhile. So one day, I saw that, uh, commercial and everything. I was like, oh, you know what? I was always interested in real estate. So, this is something where people say that's where the generational wealth comes from, like, let me just dip into it and learn a couple things. And nothing happens for nothing, right? I don't believe in coincidence. I believe in everything has the perfect time, the perfect place. And that was just the perfect time, the perfect place during COVID. So,
Oh,
which
wow.
was
It
really
was during
interesting.
COVID.
Yeah.
A
So,
lot of things happened then.
yes, a lot of things happened, but it was also a blessing to be just sitting there and like thinking about what I want to do. And that's where I actually found out that getting a real estate license is not as hard as I thought, right? Like, how do you do it? I just literally jumped in. I like to jump into cold water. Like, this is only literally like I do not like water at all.
Yeah.
But that's how I figured out how to do it. I did it all online, while my kids were sleeping. My kids were really young at that age. And yeah, I got my license that way. And then the interesting part is, sometimes you have to say things out into the universe and see where it takes you. And that's what I did. I told people that I started it, and a really good friend of mine, neighbor, she said, I know someone who owns a brokerage. And it just so happened that it's a German brokerage.
Wow.
And guess who knows the German brokerage? Me.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm actually probably the only person here in Minnesota who can say the name of the brokerage.
Yeah.
Because it's a German name. It's called Engel und Völkers.
Oh, yeah,
And
I couldn't. Even you just saying that, I couldn't.
so I met her, the owner. Her name is Lindsay. And I just felt totally in love with everything that she was just, talking, everything they're representing. And I kind of knew the image of the brokerage, but I actually also fell in love with the people who are leading this company. So we had a meeting, and sometimes if things are meant to be, they just fall into place.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened. I haven't, some people are like, oh, I went to so many interviews before I, oh, sorry, this is just so distracting.
It's so loud. Is it gonna be okay?
Okay.
I was gonna say, is it gonna be fine?
Just throw out an apple or something. Yeah, we will. But I was just, like,
I wasn't even complaining of the noise. I could feel the whole thing shaking. I was like scared.
Guys,
like,
if you start getting headaches and stuff, like you should start suing.
Yeah.
You should just tell them, I think I feel dizzy. I think, what's your company's name?
Yeah, that's smart. Yeah. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Don't worry.
Let me backtrack. What were we saying? Oh, you were talking about the brokerage and your mentoring.
Yes, like when things fall into place when they're meant to happen. And my life has always been like that. I never try to force things to happen because I always, with the religious background, with the cultural background, we always just say Alhamdulillah, because we always say whatever is meant to be is going to happen either way. We're not in control, right? Like even the bad things, like maybe it wasn't meant for me, right? You should never pray for, oh, I wish. It's more like a whatever is best for me. Right.
Yeah.
And I always pray like that. So everything just happened really smoothly. It was one of the best decisions I've ever made. Like it was a hard transition though. Like it's because as a woman, I feel like you have to do not just 100%, you have to do 200%.
Absolutely.
And I'm
as
speaking,
a mother.
yes.
Yeah.
And I'm speaking as a woman who has, who has a partner who's helping, right? I cannot even imagine the ones who do it all by themselves because it's just so much work. Like I don't feel like they're getting, enough praise. I'm telling you, it's
Yeah.
like, mashallah.
Yeah.
So I have to support. Luckily, my husband has always been like, his name is Bhatti. He's always been like, no one can make you happy but you. I kind of took offense to that at the beginning, right? Because we all dream about, the man who comes on a white horse,
Yeah.
like all those fairy tales, in the West. They're like, he's like, no, that's not my job. Excuse me.
Mhm.
He's like, in order to be happy, you have to make yourself happy. You have to know what makes you happy. How would I know if you don't even know? And he is so outspoken and so straightforward. It kind of feels really offensive if you don't know him. But
That's
that
is that the German and the Turkish both?
I know it's just Patty. I'm
Yeah.
telling you, it's just him, right? But once you get to know him, he has such an amazing big heart.
Mashallah.
If you can take his critique, he will make you a better person, no
Mhm.
matter what, because he really does everything with the best intention. But he doesn't waste his time.
Yeah.
That's one thing that I also learned a lot from him and from my white family that I call white family. It's Engel and Volkers, everyone there,
Yeah.
because there's no one better than my white family or white people who can teach you what boundaries are.
Mm.
I feel like in our culture, with our background,
Oh my goodness.
there's no boundaries. No one teaches us boundaries.
Yeah.
We just have to accept and be quiet, right? It's called respect. And I think that's also part how I learned to figure out who I am, and because if you don't know who you are, how do you know what thrives you? How do you know what motivates you, right? And as I said, the first 3 years in your business, like, what is your motivation? And I think it was especially important now to me since I have kids,
Yeah.
because guess what is the number one factor for a kid to thrive? Do you know?
No.
It's the mom's happiness.
Mm.
If mom is stressed, if mom is, anxious, mom is whatever, they can't be happy. They cannot thrive. They're always worried about, what kind of situation am I coming in? How is mom going to react? Is she explosive? Is she this and that, right? So they're more focused on you and how to make you happy and how to please you and how to change the mood than they're happy with like just being them and finding out who they are, right?
That is
So,
so true.
and that's how I really learned, yeah, just to find out who I am, what makes me happy,
Wow, that's
right?
amazing. And you spoke a little bit about, your transition. Was it challenging going from, being a stay-at-home mother for 9 years and then now joining this new world of essentially working?
hmm So I worked a little bit before that, but I tell you guys, working without kids and working with kids is a whole nother world,
Yeah.
right? Like it's literally you have like third world war at home and then you have to go to work and pretend nothing happened, right?
Yeah.
Like I didn't have that. Before I was just rolling out of bed, just taking care of me, 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 me. And then
Mhm.
you just go to work, everything's chill, it's just yourself, right? Now it's everyone else, and then it's you. And then you have to be professional, and then
Yeah.
you have to add value, and you have to do all the other things, right?
Yeah.
So it has been a little bit of a transition, but I don't ever see myself as a victim, right? I have that growth mindset. And my husband said something so beautiful to me. Every time I'm a little down, I'm a little exhausted because it was like a really long week and it was a lot of work. He always says, like, yeah, this is called pain, growing pains, because you're like learning, you're growing, and that doesn't just come with the joy, it comes with the pains. It's growing pains. So I totally see it different now too. Like when I ever go for like, a hard week or everything, it's like, oh my God, I'm growing, I'm getting more experience. I'm getting all of the things. So
That's an amazing perspective, and that's a
yeah.
great way to shift and also, again, motivate you to continue.
hmm
That's awesome. Okay, so now, you're in your first year after the pandemic. What has it been like during the pandemic and then going into now we're in 2024? What have been some changes within, the real estate industry?
It's interesting that you say that because I am so focused on just finding my own way rather than what is the market doing, what is everyone else doing. That, yes, it has a little effect on that, right? But I was so busy just getting experience. And for most people during the pandemic, even though we all thought we're going to die for a little bit, right? So most people moved, they sold, they bought, they didn't have any worry. They just want to have big land. They didn't, interest rate was so low that everyone just, bought those dream homes and everything, and thought they can take care of big yards, but now they realize they can't. And so it was really amazing for a lot of real estate agents, except when you start it, because you don't know what you're doing. So you're not going to get hired right away. Right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was more of like, just trying to dab into this, just getting experience, because the first couple years, you have to be realistic. You are actually gaining experience. This is the biggest investment someone is doing, right? They're not going to just trust someone who's in the market for two months, right? So you have to humble yourself and just realize, like, hey, this is a long time plan. This is not just I come in, I get rich, I get out of here. Nothing like that sounds ever halal to begin with, right?
Right.
So I knew what I'm getting into, right? Like, I knew it's going to be a little bit challenging, but alhamdulillah, I have to be at the same time. I do not have the same, challenges that a lot of other people have being in real estate. I do have that husband who's been always paying the bills, right? Like, I do not have had, but that was also why it's harder for me to find the motivation, right?
Yeah.
For some people, it's paying the bills,
Yeah.
keeping my kids alive, keeping the lights on. For
Mhm.
me, it was like, what do I want?
Yeah.
Why do I do this? Is it worth, or can I just, not do it? And something Jeff, who's the owner of the brokerage too, there are two owners, said to me, it was really like motivating, actually. He said to me that most people that get into this industry who are stay-at-home moms fail.
Mm. Why is that?
It's because they don't have to. And, most people really like to stay in their comfort zone.
Yeah.
It's just what it is. It's natural for us humans, right? But when he said that, I accepted this as a challenge, kind of, I really loved that he said, I will never forget that he said that, right? And he didn't mean it in a bad way, right? He absolutely didn't mean it in a bad way. He totally saw the potential in me, because otherwise I wouldn't have gotten hired in that sense, because they are Engel and Volkers is invitation only, basically. So you have a couple of interviews and then they decide if you fit in there or not. So it was like, oh, I can do that. Why shouldn't I be able to do that, right? One other thing that was really important at that time too is, like, when my older son, he was, I think, wait, let me think. He's 13 now. I started 4 years. He was 9. He said to me that moms don't work. Moms stay at home. Dads are the ones working. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Why are you saying that? I was like, oh my God, I have to change that, because I don't want him growing up thinking that this is, this is what it has to be. Because I want everyone to be having the option to whatever they want to do, right?
Right.
If they're happy staying at home, stay at home. If you're happy working, like, I don't want you
Okay.
to tell me what to do, right? In that sense. Like, otherwise, it's not going to happen that that person's going to, achieve their full potential, be happy, and not going to be able to make you happy yet.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow. And I think that's what makes you very unique is that you are in this field not because you need the money to survive. You are actually genuinely working your best for your clients. And so you are going to make sure that you provide the most valuable advice that you can when they're making such a huge decision.
Yeah.
And I think that's very, very special.
I think that's very special, yes. But I think the actual special part for me is actually my motivation and my purpose, where it comes in. And we haven't really dipped into it, but I tell you what my motivation is. It's, I mean, everyone has some difficulties in life, right? My difficulties were more at the beginning of life. My parents have been immigrants. I've always been immigrant all my life, kind of, so but
Yeah.
it wasn't easy. I had a not so good childhood, let's say it that way. My parents got divorced really early. I didn't grow up with my mom. I had a stepmom. Like, everything that can go wrong basically went wrong, right?
Yeah.
So till I learned that your actual purpose is whatever you struggled with and you wished someone would have been there for you. So now I realize that my purpose is actually protecting those who need that protection in the best way that I can, with the experience that I can, right? Being an advocate. So that's why I love educating people, because everyone is able to make their own decisions. But you need someone who just has the best interests, who doesn't have to do things in order to survive, right? So that's a luxury I have.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm using. And it doesn't get better than actually specializing in that niche, which is my background, and that is being a Muslim born and raised in a Christian country. all in my life, I learned how to bridge in between cultures, bridge in between religions, bridge in between everything. And that is my biggest gift. And that's what I'm using, because we don't just need someone, who understands what you want. We need someone on the other side who understands what they want and then connect them
Yeah.
like a connector, right?
I like that. Is your motivation the same as your purpose?
Well, my motivation, no. My purpose is helping those who need help, right? But my motivation is, and which is funny, that I found that out just recently too, right? Because I always thought, even with the brokerage, my white dad
Yeah.
always said, like, you need to have that, why, what is your why, and all that. And you hear it all the time, but, it's just like people talking about kids, but you hear it, but you don't really, understand it till you have your kids, right? So I had a meeting with one of the most amazing people on this planet, and her name is Asia.
Yay, shout out to Asia.
She is, guys, if you need to get your butt kicked, meet her. I'm telling you. Like, she literally switched on a light switch for me because she asked me and she could literally look right through me. She told me, she's like, I don't think your why is your why. I think it's someone else's why. And that's why you are not motivated to actually do certain things. That's why you feel like you're running around with like a headless chicken. I'm like, what do you mean? Till I got deeper and realized that my why was always just my mom's why, right? Making her happy, right? Trying to achieve everything she thought, it's going to make her happy in life. I was like, that's not my why. And then she said, and the other thing is the problem that we have nowadays, that we connect money with evil, success with money, and money with evil. I'm like, holy shit, yes. Money is evil, right?
Yeah.
All the rich people, they're all, evil. They always just try to get richer and more, I don't know,
Yeah.
try to take control. Mostly men.
Yeah.
Sorry, but
Yep.
so
No,
true.
that's true. It's okay.
And she was like, you have to shift that and find something, what you could do with that money, right? And I was like, oh my God, I knew what I would do. What I would actually do is, like, I would love to support women, especially Muslim women, who have the same background as me, because how much as I struggled, right? Trying to heal my inner child,
Yeah.
to help them to get started, coach them in how to start, like help them in, like, how do you get the finances, right? Like, and how can you do that? You have to have money to do that, right? Like, how about I earn my money, right? And then invest it in the right places. And that's my motivation.
Wow, that's very deep. And I love what Asia said too, and how she helped you kind of like really dig deep and reflect to um, kind of find your own reasoning. Because I think as we're younger, we do try to fulfill our parents' purpose and trying to make them happy. And sometimes we don't realize that. Some of us don't even realize it until it's too late. So that's special. I want to talk more about now how you support and work with the Muslim community.
Hmm.
Not a lot of realtors have access to the Muslim community, or I should say, the Muslim community doesn't have access to Muslim realtors as
Hmm.
much. How has that been? Because I know that there can be challenges when Muslim families want to buy a house, such as the biggest one is like interest, and they're scared of that. How are you able to help Muslim families become homeowners? And what has that been like?
So my so the first couple of years when I deep dived into real estate getting experience, I realized that I had this one Muslim family that fulfilled me the most when I helped them. Literally, I felt like, oh my God, I felt so appreciated. I felt like I'm really doing what I need to do. Like, that feeling could not be compared to anything else. That's why I made the decision to actually just specialize in this, right? Like, it filled both. It felt like money wise, I was earning money, but it filled my cup, right?
Yeah.
So that's why we're like, I can't cover all the bases, because our problem nowadays too is like we're trying to be relevant to everyone. We can't. We have to be laser focused on things. And you cannot become the best person or the best version if you're not knowing what you actually want to achieve, right? So I really laser focused on what I want to do. Like, how do I get that? Who I do I speak to? Like, who do I need to connect to, right? And everything in this industry is with network and connections, right? So I really started connecting with the right people, and then I started connecting with the community, because you cannot just be known in the community.
Right.
There's such a huge trust factor in this community, and that takes time. It literally takes time. And I really started off with just going to conventions, like having a booth, having a table, and all that, and just meeting the beauty of just all the members and seeing what a huge need there was, right? Like, how much actually in our community the women are the decision makers,
Yeah.
especially if it comes to house buying, right? And that's actually exactly what I laser focused into, right? Because the men are always like, oh, but how is a woman going to help us? But then they realize that, oh, the woman's actually the one who makes all those, like connections. I work, but she does all of that, at the same time, because she is more focused on what the kitchen looks like and all that. And what is better than having a woman on the other side?
Right.
And the best part about me is not just that I focus on all that, like the visual part, it's everyone has their own, kind of vision and taste and all that, right? My part is just like trying to protect you with my experience, right? And guide you, and also just make it transparent. Like, what is the risk? I try to minimize the risk, let's say it that way. I wanted to be aware of things, because in the end of the day, you make the decision, right? You make the decision, but if I made you aware of all of those things, setting the right expectations, it's just gonna make it a smooth transaction, right? It's gonna just gonna make it so much smoother than finding all those issues, trying to, like, because sometimes the big issue we have too, and especially in real estate, is always like, oh, I want to win this client, I want to win this client. But I totally shifted away from that, because I also learned that I cannot be a match for everyone,
Mhm.
right? If you're a person who wants someone who has your best interest in mind, who's trying to protect you, who's really looking what is your interest, not how do I close a deal really fast, right?
Right.
Then I'm the right person. If you're a person who's statistic based, like quality based, who really wants to roll out the red carpet and treat you as the person that, helps me to earn money, right? Then I'm the right person. But if you say like, oh, women can't do that, or, if you think that, it's just all the visual part and stuff, then I'm not the right person, right?
Yeah. And as a woman in this industry, do you find any challenges just being a woman, let alone a Muslim woman? And also, through your experiences, what have you learned to help empower other women?
It's interesting that you say that, because I think a lot of industries, we women always feel like we're, outnumbered. It's always like man dominated, middle aged white man dominated industries, right? However, I feel like people, the right people, will be attracted to you because of who you are, right? And if they don't think that you bring that value, then they're not the right fit to begin with, right? I think we struggle more about what people think about us, and we have to stop that. Like that imposter syndrome of us, like always thinking that we have to be, the smartest, the best, the whatever in the room. No, I really double down on just being me, and either you like me or you don't, right? Like, and what I've learned, I do a really, really good job, and my intention is really just to have your best interest. When I go somewhere, I always tell my clients like, "Hey, for me, I'm not counting like how much am I going to earn from this transaction.
Mhm.
For me, this is not my goal is not to sell your house. It's not like to close this. My goal is that you're so happy that you trust me so much that you recommend me to everyone else that you know."
Yeah.
I mean, that's the only way how you can, make sure that you have a
Yeah.
business.
I love that. Do you have any, like, stories you wanna highlight of and you don't have to be specific about the
Mhm.
details, but some success stories about, some individuals that you helped in getting their first home and how that was like?
Yeah. So, and that's the other really interesting part. Like, I'm an empath, right? Like, I go and I
Me
soak up
too.
all that emotion, right? Like, that can be really dangerous in real estate, though,
Very, much.
especially if you have to have, like, you have your offer in, there's multiples in, like, how do you win, like, and then you see the disappointment. And, you know, what I love is, though, with the Muslim community, we always say, whatever's meant to you, it's going to happen. You can't see this as a bad thing, right? You always have to just say, Alhamdulillah, Allah protect me from something worse to happen or from something bad, right? That really helps. That helps so much. I can't even tell you. But then knowing that something actually, like I have so many stories where I literally, and that's all to the quality of where I work, right? Like that's why I chose England Walkers. They have such a high like education level and they really try. We meet twice a week just to talk about, once is like when we just role play about issues. So we have all the advisors in one room, one person has an issue and we all brainstorm. What can we do, right? Because our, motto is too that we go in like if someone, there's going to be an issue. There's always going to be an issue. It's so stressful and a lot of things, right? Our motto is like, we're not calling the client and tell him this is the issue. We tell him this is the issue and those are your options,
I love
right?
that. So you offer potential solutions or options to figure out another thing.
Yes, and I actually use that with my kids now too, and it really helps, right? It's like,
Good. Yeah.
this is the problem, but those are your options. Like, it doesn't always work, not with Hamza especially, but it really helps sometimes, like to come with a solution so it kind of doesn't overwhelm people. And it also helps when you so that's the other thing, right? Like a lot of people are used to just go, let's go and look at houses. It's so beautiful, that's what you do. We scroll through the houses,
They have a
at
list of
bedtime.
all the houses that they saved on Zillow. Yeah.
Exactly. So my initial thing is always, and that's very important to me, is to actually sit down with you. If it's a Google Meet or if it's just like I love to meet in person. I'm not, I feel too old to always do all the technology things.
Yeah.
Seriously. And I
Yeah.
feel like when you come into a room and you look someone, like you are there and you can actually see someone,
Present, yeah.
you can also feel the energy of someone. I feel that's such an important thing too, to feel the energy of someone. And it's also so much easier for people to really gain that trust, in this whole thing. So I sit down, I tell them what the process looks like, and I ask what their motivation is. The first question is always going to be, what is your motivation? What are you, because they're always like, what is the market like? It's like, what do you want to do? For everyone, it's different, right? Are you an investor? Are you a buyer? Are you a seller? What do you want to do, right?
Mhm.
And does it make sense? And I will always tell you my honest opinion, tell you if it makes sense or it doesn't make sense to me, how I would do, or if I would wait or if I would not wait.
Yeah.
That was horrible, right?
That was.
Yeah, I can literally feel the whole sofa shaking.
I could felt it on your side. You probably, and I feel it on my side, but I was like, you could probably really feel it. I really
Yeah.
feel like he's about to pick us all up
Yeah.
and like the whole building's about to move.
It's like when you get your pedicure, you get a massage chair.
Oh, the massage, how intense. It's so aggressive. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, well, maybe you're getting a free massage in the
Well, I
same
always turn it off. I hate it.
Oh,
So
okay. I do too, actually. No, sorry. But yeah, well, I'm very curious to know. I mean, you're the only Muslim woman that works in your firm, right?
yes. Well, uh, let's say it that way, I mean, as Muslims, we're known to be always in hiding
Yeah.
because of what media tells everyone about us, right? They're
Yeah.
like, oh my God, please, I'm not
Yeah.
going to do anything.
Yeah.
So, but I learned to not hide.
And that's what I wanted to ask you. Like, is it a process to educate your peers?
It kind of is, but I also feel like I am put in this position for a reason, and it's also a duty of us to educate people, right? To I think I am, from a lot of people, I'm the only Muslim person or friend they have, right?
I
And I'm
feel
okay
like
with that.
yeah.
Like I like to be. If you want to have a Muslim friend, I can be a friend, right?
Mhm.
Because I am not gonna be that person who's gonna judge you for your questions or
Is it too loud? Oh, you're not listening. Oh, okay.
Huh.
Okay, so let's talk about present day.
Mhm.
What are you up to now? How are you helping individuals and families? Like, what's new?
I am actually really, really excited because there's this new program out. It's not a new program, right? Everyone knows about down payment assistance programs and whatsoever, and most people don't want to put an
Oh
effort
my God,
in.
I hear about it so much lately. Like
Yes,
down
because people
payment
hear it,
assistance.
but
Yes.
sometimes it is just like a lot of shine, but nothing behind it because people are like, oh, what is it, and blah blah. And so, what I love about it actually is not just a down payment assistance program; it's a first generation down payment assistance program. They are really trying to close the gap between home ownership, and they are saying that, especially Black people or Black families, Black immigrants, are the ones who are owning the least of houses,
I
right?
heard, because we used to do a lot of, in my like old jobs, a lot of workshops retaining the gap with home ownership in the Black
Hmm.
community, and we were like third worst in the nation.
Yes, yes.
Why is that?
I can't tell you why exactly. I think it's a lot of like, I wouldn't say it's all discrimination and stuff. I don't think that's a problem. I think it's a lot of like education problems. Like,
Mm.
how do we really reach the ones that need it the most? Because whatever they tried to achieve, they always reached the wrong people, right? People took it for their advantage because there was always a loophole to get that, right?
Yeah.
And it never reached those who actually should be getting it, right? So that's why I'm such a huge promoter of this. I like to really like, I even tell people like, hey, come, I teach you. Even if you don't use me as an agent, at least I gave you that information.
Right.
Because even that in Islam is like something good you have done, right? Like
Mhm.
it counts as a good deed, right? So I like to educate. And that's the reason I like to educate, like, because I don't want anyone to be taken advantage of. And just them knowing about it is also is a benefit for everyone, right?
Mhm.
Like, and that program itself, though, why it's so important, like, not everyone has to own a home, right? But they also associate home ownership not just with wealth. They also associate with security, right?
Mm.
With like with children's mental health, with like stability, with them thriving, knowing that this is where they belong and not having to move all the time, right? Like that they are surrounded by people who all like take care of the homes because they're not just renting it, right? So there's such a huge factor playing a role, and that's what makes this the whole thing even better. Like, if I can get you into a home, but not just you, like if you are the first one in the generation that I help you get into a house, I mean, how big is that?
Yeah.
The interesting thing is I actually have the first one closing tomorrow
Oh,
from that
mashallah.
program.
Oh my goodness.
And it's a really, I see it as a really big achievement,
That's huge.
because everyone is saying it and everyone is trying to get that as a hook, like, come to me, I'm gonna, but no one really takes the time to actually coach them through everything, because it's a really tedious kind of thing that you have to do. Like, there's so many requests, and there's so many like things that you have to actually fulfill, requirements, and they're purposely there, right? And there's no shortcut.
Mm.
And that's where, the German upbringing basically comes in again, where I know, like, oh, okay, I can help you figure this out, and I'm not taking a shortcut. Like, even if I know that this might be a goal in 6 months, I will still tell you where to start,
Yeah.
right? At least we know. It's like going on a diet. At least you know the numbers, right?
Yeah.
Like, let's start somewhere, right? And that's why I really pride myself with. But you cannot help everyone. So that's another thing
You
that I learned,
cannot help everyone.
because
And how did
sometimes.
you learn that?
So because I literally felt like I'm running around like a headless chicken.
Yeah.
And then I really learned, and everyone has been saying that, and that's where it really makes sense, that you cannot help someone who doesn't want to be helped.
Mhm.
If someone doesn't follow the expert in that industry or in whatever you're trying to achieve, like, what more can you do, right?
Mhm.
You cannot make them or force them to do something, even if you know if this is the best for them. So I
Mhm.
learned to always take a step back and let them come. Give them all the information they need, and then let them come.
Mhm.
And that makes, and also just like, having a funneling system. Oh, actually, oh my God, I missed the biggest part of it, is actually hiring an assistant.
Yeah.
And
That
that's
makes a difference.
oh my God, I can't even tell you. And I always say, like, I did that so prematurely, not based on numbers. That's how a lot of businesses actually fail. But, like, I always had a really good trust,
Mhm.
the feeling that I always follow. And my assistant actually contacted me and said, like, hey, I'm looking for, part-time kind of gig, and would you be interested? I said, I don't think I should, but yes, why
Mhm.
not? I'm up for it. I think you would be a perfect fit. And I'm so glad I made that call.
Yeah.
She is literally everything. She might be listening. Everything and more I was really hoping for. And
Yeah.
that's the other thing that a lot of people have to learn, that you cannot do everything.
Yeah.
You have to learn that, the things that you can't focus on, the things that you're good at,
Right.
and outsource the things that you're not good at.
Oh my goodness, say it louder. That is something that it took me a while to learn, but that is probably the most valuable thing that I now go by.
And I know no one likes to share the cake, right? The whole cake, but no, you can't. You
I don't
actually
even want to.
yes, you're
I don't
actually
wanna
more
eat the whole cake.
successful if you share it.
Yeah.
And you have someone to share it with, so it's more joy, right? Why can we not all have a piece of a cake, right?
There's an African proverb, very famous, where it says, "You go alone, you can go faster, but you go together, you go farther." And that's basically what you described.
And that's actually, I think, a big thing that is really missing in our Muslim community is the fact that we have to really start working together, right? I even see that in our industry. A lot of times when people see me for the first time, I was like, oh, she's a realtor too. I was like, oh my God, I'm so excited. Another Muslim realtor, right? Like me, happy and all that. And because I always tell people, like, whatever is meant for me is meant for me. You can't take it away from me. It's my risk, right?
Mhm.
This is me, right? And I can take it away from you. So why do you think that we are competition? We are not. I do not have competition.
Amen to that. Yes.
So why can we not start working together and trying to benefit from each other and for each other? Like if everyone around you is happy, do you think you're gonna, even if you earn less, are gonna be having less value around you? You know, it's this is just something I don't, especially as a parent, as a mom. I just want everyone to thrive, right? I want everyone to have, uh, you know, fulfill their purpose, like just thrive, be happy. Like I don't care, right? Like just everyone be happy. If you have
Mhm.
more than me, wonderful.
Good.
That's not that
Exactly.
matters, I'm appreciative about little things.
Yeah.
And that's where I really started also doubling down into including, not just trying to benefit from the community that I'm trying to serve, whereas there's a niche. I also try to pull back, like pour back money into the community,
Mhm.
right? I always feel like that's something that's always lacking too, right? We always want something, like, oh, give me a referral, give me this, give me that. But a lot of them are business owners too. Why can I not support you? Why can I not hire you? Why can I not have you, benefit
Mhm.
me as much as I can you, right?
Mhm.
And that's something that's also like I feel like totally untouched in our industry. And I feel like
Mhm.
if more of us would think like that, it would be, I think we all would do so much better. But
Absolutely.
it has to start somewhere.
Yeah. And it starts with you. There's only so much we can do. Yeah. I love that. So tell us, anyone who's interested in buying a house, where do we start? It's such an overwhelming process. I
Yes.
don't even know where to start.
And the really cool thing about this actually is you will only do it once or twice. Most people will. So you do not need to know all of that, right? You need to know the basic things. You need to know what the timelines look like. And you have to have someone that you trust, that you just trust to know that they know what they're doing, right? Like you
Mhm.
go to a hairdresser, right? And they look at your face shape and then you tell them I want to have like my hair shaved off.
Mhm.
Like they should be experienced enough to say, like, that's not going to suit you.
Mhm.
Don't do it. Right. Or I'm not doing it. That's the other thing that I actually even did before. Like when I cannot stand 100% behind something, I just tell them I can't do it and I won't do it.
Mm.
And that's something that's just so important because my morals, my integrity, my name, my brand is so much more important than any
Yes.
sales. Right.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I love that, and I think when you hire a realtor such as yourself, you become more than just a realtor. You're like a sister, a friend in the process. I'm
Yeah.
sure you've laughed with clients, cried with clients,
Yeah.
like went the long yard and probably still have relationships with them, whether it worked out or not. So I think that's very valuable. It's like no one forgets like their kindergarten teacher or any teacher when they were younger that made an impact in their
Uh-huh.
lives. Like I feel like you're that person.
I it's funny that you say that because I really become friends and family members with those families. Like it's really and the funny thing is because a lot of them are referrals, right? It's like it's people they know, right?
Mhm.
And now we are this big group where everyone knows everyone, everyone has worked with me. Like if I want to do something, I just have to invite one of them, tell them just bring your family, and I know they're all gonna be there, right? All past clients, future clients and all that, So
Yeah.
that's the beauty of it, right? Like it's hard to get in this community,
Mhm.
and it's hard to win that trust. But once you do, you're literally like a family member. And that's how I want to be seen as. I want this to be, when you work with me, I want you not to think about this as a process. I want you to always remember that feeling I gave you.
Mhm.
And sometimes you're like, oh, that cannot be true, right? Like, but I promise you it will be. Just trust it, right?
Mhm.
Like uh, it will be peaceful, even though it's stressful,
Yeah.
right? But if you rely on that expert and you know that this is a fit, it's going to work out.
Yeah. What's a misconception people have about buying a house that's usually not true?
I think a lot of times people are always talking about the down payment, right?
Mm.
And everyone is saying, like, oh, I have to save a lot of money in order to do that, especially in our community now with all the programs, right? They are out there, which it's really interesting because I feel like, especially in our community, it's more the financial literature that's missing rather than the money that they're earning. They're actually earning really good money. A lot of them, they have really great professions, right? But they've never learned how to budget everything in, right? And
Mhm.
that's not taught in school because there's a reason for that too, right?
That's why
Otherwise,
I'm a financial literacy queen. That's where I come in.
yes.
Yeah.
And that is such a huge thing.
It's huge.
That is so huge. Like you
It's
can change
important.
because people don't understand that it's not what you earn, it's actually what you make with it, right?
Yes.
And that's the first thing. That's a misconception, right? And then the second thing is it's just also realizing that I don't know who taught our community that, like you only get rich by, earning money and, you have to invest, after that. So they're all thinking that making money is mainly into investing into a business, right?
Mm.
Not realizing that generational wealth or the biggest wealth is actually owning a house. It's not saving that money. It's not earning more money. It's actually owning a house. And that's what they talk about the American dream. The best part is it's also halal.
Yeah.
We can do that. And there is no shortcut to this. You go through it, but then you did it, right?
Wow. We're clipping that part. You ate in that piece. Um, I wanted to also ask you when it comes to real estate, where do you see the direction it's headed in the future?
Um, there's a lot of news about real estate and everything, commission here, commission that, which is interesting because that buyer commission payout was always just a choice, but most people don't know because how often do you buy a house, right? It's
Right.
just news. They just read headlines, but what do you worry about, right? You still have to live in a house, you still have to buy a house, you still have to move, you have to still, those are still things you have to do, right?
Mm.
And even if I don't want to disappoint anyone, but guess what? The buyer's agent still wants to be paid. No one wants to work for free, right?
Mhm.
And I think the biggest thing right now is that people are being like, not knowing what's to come, rather than trying to focus on what we know, right? And and I love actually what our brokerage teaches us because they're always saying now it just lets gives you an opportunity to shine
Mhm.
because you've always given that service, you always given that education, you always given that value. And you shouldn't be worried because you've always been doing your job, right? You wasn't
Mhm.
just putting in a sign in the yard, right? You've always done everything around that. So, and that's why I'm totally not worried. Besides the fact that I know I'm not in control, we are not in control about anything, right?
Yeah.
I just focus on what I do now and what do I have under control, right? And then I just adjust to whatever happens.
I love that. That's amazing. And it's so interesting that you bring that up. And we talked about this a little bit earlier, but I was reading a comment the other day on one of the um news sources, and it was talking about home ownership. And there was a gentleman who said he makes about 40,000 a year, but he bought a house. I think he bought two homes actually. One was like about 10 years ago, and then one that him and his wife and kids live in now. And people were like, I don't believe you. Like, you only make 40,000 a year. That's like almost poverty. Like, how can you own a home? And he was like, it's not about how much I make, it's how I spend it. And he was like, yeah, I might make 40,000 for now, but he was like, the investment that I put in, this house is gonna be worth, 250, 350, maybe half a million in the future. And I was like, wow. I was like, that is so interesting. It's not how he said, it's not about how much you make, it's about how you invest and how you spend it. And him buying a house was probably the smartest financial decision he made for him and his family. And they're doing so well.
Mhm. And that's what you teach your children too, right?
Yeah.
That's why it's called generational wealth. It's
Hmm.
not just the house that you leave, it's like what you teach them how to become a
Yeah.
homeowner. Like a lot of them teach their children like really early how to build up their credit score and how to be able to take a mortgage and and all of the things. Our community doesn't know.
Hmm.
Like, and that's not a bad thing, right? It's not a bad thing, and that's why I come in to try to educate them where to start. Because a lot of them, they come in, they get a denial letter. They don't get that mortgage, even though they're like, six-figure earners, right?
Hmm.
But I never see that as a down. It's like, this is not the right time. Let's just work on how can we get you there, right? And that success after getting them into a home is so much sweeter even
Yeah,
because it took a while, right? It really feels like earning this.
definitely.
And that's also like where you play such a big role in like, that financial literature that we really need to get out there, especially in our community where it's so important because we have so many misconceptions about, oh, interest rate is forbidden, it's riba, it's this and that. But like no one is showing them the options. And then they fall
Absolutely.
prey for like contract for deed and all the other things that,
Ooh.
were just like such a trap. And not because a contract for deed is a really bad thing. No. If you know what you're getting into, it's not a bad thing. But most of them didn't know that there's other options or that there's a reason. I have this really cool story about my children. Hamza, who is 8, and Malik is 13. He's the older brother. We go to Valley Fair almost every year. We had like a season pass, and Hamza was almost always about to be able to ride the roller coaster, right? But he was, and the past time it was 1 inch, he was 1 inch too short, right?
Mhm.
And Malik thought, you know what, Hamza? Next time you just wear your Nike Air Max, right? And then you're an inch taller. And they're all like, yeah, high fiving each other, thinking that was the smartest idea ever, right? Like whatever his big brother says is very smart.
Mhm.
He's actually smart, but
Yeah. That's so
and
cute.
then I looked at them and just laughed. I said, like, why do you think there is those regulations and guidelines? Do you think because they're thinking, I do not want Hamza to have fun in life, right?
Mhm.
Like, it's to protect you. It's to protect the consumer, also out of liability reasons, right?
Mhm.
Because no one wants to see a 7-year-old die on a roller coaster,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, like, that is the reason why. So you thinking you can trick the system is actually gonna make it worse.
Mm. Yeah.
So, and that's like humans do not grow out of that. Like that mindset, I
Of
still see
trying to
it.
finesse the system.
I still
Please
see it
break us from the shackles.
every
Oh my
day. I see
goodness.
it every day. But that's, as I said, like all the puzzle pieces in my life are really coming together where like that upbringing in Germany really helps, where you do not do like, what is it called if you cross when it's red? Jaywalking.
Jaywalking, yeah.
We probably have nightmares about jaywalking because so we are so fearful of that. We can't do that, like breaking rules and all of that. We
In
don't.
Germany? Oh my goodness.
So,
We
but that's
jaywalk
where
here
I
24/7.
know. But that's where it comes handy because now I can teach them. It's like, no, it's fine. It's fine. We got this. Like, let's see what the rules are. Let's see what the regulations are. And my clients who really follow the lead, the map that I have, mapped out for their interest and whatever they want to do, right? Because that's the biggest thing. Like, I want to protect you and your interest, right? I do not want to do whatever I think is right for you. Once we have that plan, we're going to, plan whatever is best. We're going to create that master plan for you. And then we're going to go that road, right? However long it takes. But I'm okay with putting that work in because I'm not just going to be in and out, right?
Yeah. And that's the important thing is that you're okay with the process and trusting the process and not just kind of immediately jumping to conclusions, solutions just to make something happen so fast.
Because, a lot of people think like, oh, she's so patient, all that, but it also has a business background.
Mhm.
Because in the end of the day, your success rate is what makes you a successful person, right? If you
Mhm.
don't get too close with the people that you start with, right? And you just halfway always, guess what? Your reputation is going to be like, you don't know if you're going to close with that person, right?
Mhm.
I don't want that to happen. I'd rather make it take longer, but they actually close, right?
Yeah.
Because in the meantime, they're sending me all the other people
Mhm.
because of that, right? They know that you can trust that she has that process. She's guiding you, she's protecting you, showing you what their limits are and the boundaries and, what are the options and opportunities.
Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. So, what advice do you have for any young realtors that are now joining the game? Because I see so many amazing young individuals who are jumping into this industry. And it's exciting, but it can be scary. So, what advice do you have for them?
I really love, love, love the fact that people are motivated about that, right? Like, I just don't want them to be driven by thinking that it's going to be all just perfect, It's not. But you have to learn to enjoy the process and realizing that, it takes a while till you get that experience, but and it comes with pain, right?
Yeah.
Growing pains. So, but once you hang in there and you have to learn to become the best in what you're doing.
Mhm.
And you cannot cover all bases. Find out who you are. Find out who you like to serve, right? Like who makes you happy just hanging out with them, right? Like when I hang out with my clients, I am not kidding you. It always feels like I'm meeting a friend, right?
Mm.
So no matter how long that showing goes, like I always enjoy it. I'm never like, oh my God, I have to be home. I want to be home. It's more like, oh, okay, we didn't.
And vice versa. I feel like it would be so fun to hang out with you, like shopping at houses. Like I would be like, I'm gonna hang out with Dilek for the rest of the day. So,
It's really like, and I try to make it purposely like more joyful
mhm,
because it's already stressful, right?
mhm,
Like, and not, and I don't want them to feel pressured. They're like, oh my God, like, now we have to ask you to show us like the 50th house, right? Like, I want them to feel comfortable that that I'm there for their best interests,
yeah,
right?
mhm,
So, and it feels really like your older sister, like your
yeah.
family members here to help you out. And I will always call out the worst things, right? Like this is another thing that's really interesting, like Minnesota nice.
Oh,
I'm
so
not
you
I
feel
am
that?
not from Minnesota.
Thank God. And you're German and Turkish, so it's like you definitely don't play with that Minnesota nice.
Like
Yeah.
I like Minnesota nice with people I don't know, right? I don't want them to be jerks to me, right?
Mhm.
But if it's something important, like
Be transparent.
like the biggest investment of my life,
I
I
don't
don't
need
need
you to be
nice.
that
I don't
Minnesota
need
nice.
nice.
Yeah.
I need transparency. I need statistics. I need give all the bad things to me, right? So I can
Mhm.
set the right expectations, right?
Yeah.
And that really helped me too. Like besides the fact that our community is not Minnesotan nice, right? Like they really want to know
Our
what's like.
Muslims, yeah, they need to know
Yeah.
very, very with directness,
Yeah.
honesty. I mean, like you said, like it takes a while to build trust in
Yeah.
this.
One other thing, though, I have to say, which is very specific in our community too, and I had to learn that a lot of cultural backgrounds, right? Like this is learned from different countries where bureaucracy works differently.
Mm.
You do things differently, but here it's not, right? Like there's the system that I am really well aware of. I always say I know how to play this game, right? You just have to follow the rules, and there's no shortcuts. We just have to all, like learn that there's no shortcuts. But I also learned like how to like literally I come in there and I know from the first meeting, that's why I like to meet in person, like what their ambition is.
Mm.
If there are people who try to just like get in, take the shortcuts. Because the problem is, as much as someone else promised them something, which I'm always super upset about because I know they're just preying on them and then they convince them how just to get them to closing table, no matter
Mhm.
what, right? They're gonna fall prey. But then at the same time, it also falls back on them not
Mhm.
wanting to put the work in, right?
Yeah.
And then they're always gonna fall into one trap and the other and their other, that's it's just a repeat. And I can't change them. And I'm not
Mhm.
here to change them. I learned that.
Mhm. Yeah, I love that. And you learned through experience, I'm
Yeah.
assuming, because I'm sure like off the bat you didn't know and then you had to take a few steps back.
No, especially in the industry, one other thing that I'm really well known for is like building the networks, building the community, like with the lenders, Islamic lenders, right? Because they're not in the game for a very long time yet. This is all fairly new, right? So sometimes it takes a little bit longer than exactly on closing table, right? Like there is a lot of things where it also plays a role how you set the expectations to your buyer, right? Like I'm not playing games. I know how things work. Like for example, I give you a little example.
Mhm.
Once we buy or we are under contract, I tell my clients, you are in prison now. We're not opening credit cards. We're not closing credit cards. We're not going buying shopping, furniture and all the other things, right? Like this is
Buying
where
cars.
yeah, that's where I literally tell them like, do not do that. We are in prison right now. Okay,
We are in prison. I love
so I
it.
am just like really bold and straightforward because I know they don't do that with bad intentions, or I don't do that because I have to teach them, because those are certain things where we think it's normal to know. But who taught them? No one did, right?
Mhm.
So that's where I literally tell them. So that's all the expectations, right? Like, because if any of them don't hit, right, you're not closing. You're
Mhm.
literally not closing. And I had to learn to establish an A team. So everyone that, like, people are always overwhelmed to where do I start, right? Like, come to me, because I already established the network, right? I already vetted out everyone that I trust, right? Like, if you trust me, I already trusted that I have to trust you in order to work with me, right? Otherwise, I
Mhm.
will never refer you out. And I have an amazing team that all work with the same principles. That's the most important part. Like, do not lie, do not do things just for your benefit, right? Like,
Mm.
tell them the honest truth and help them to find the resources if you know that they aren't there yet, right? It's like rejection is never a bad thing. It's just like when you don't know what are you doing, right?
Yeah.
Or where you at.
Mhm. Yeah. Wow, no, that's amazing. I feel like we can talk
I
forever.
know.
And there's so many valuable things that you've said. Um, but we'll wrap it up. But before we wrap it up, any last piece of gems that you'd like to drop for anyone who wants to buy a house and they don't know what to do? Um, what would you like to share with anyone who's watching this?
I can just tell you that it's so important to connect with the person that's going to help you to do that, to go through that process. And don't feel shy to, meet a couple of people in order, because there really needs to be that trust level. And sometimes it's not on paper and it's not like, on a picture. It's like you have to see that person and talk to that person and see how they work. And you're not going to be a match with everyone. But once you have that match, it's going to make your life so much easier, right?
Yeah, that's so true. It's about who you work with. It's a process. You trust the process. You have to trust the person you're working with. And I love how you said, don't be afraid to meet multiple people. I think that's very important.
And one other thing too is everyone knows someone, right? Like family members here and there, someone does it as a family. This is not a thing. This is the biggest investment. As much as it hurts if you do not hire your sister or whatever it is, like this is something where you have to hire someone that you know is going to do the best job for you.
Exactly.
Full stop.
I love it. Well, thank you so much, Dilek. And I'm sure that we are going to see more of you soon.
Yes, please.
Where can we find you?
I am literally everywhere and anywhere in the community. I try to be like the other thing too is like I always tell people like, I am for the community. I am from the community, right? So
Mm.
I really try to be active everywhere. But, obviously I have, my webpage. I have, my business cards. You can literally find me anywhere. And hopefully we're going to link
And
this
yeah, we'll
somewhere.
link everything and
We're
we'll
going to
share
link
it.
this here too.
Yes.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
trust the process.
Trust the process. Well, thank you so much. I haven't bought a house yet, but I am in good
You're on the
hands.
list.
I am on the list. I am in good hands, inshallah.
Yes.
And I hope you are too. And I hope you guys learned a lot from this episode. And we'd love to invite you back someday. So keep us in the loop.
Yes.
So we'll be following you on socials and we'll be checking your website. And hopefully we'll see you at future tabling events, inshallah. So thank you so much for taking time out of your day for coming here and dropping all that wonderful advice and sharing your story with us.
Thank you for having me and
Yes.
listening. I know I
Yes.
talk a lot.
No, makes my job easier. Thanks for watching, everyone. We'll see you on the next episode. Bye.